Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I have the pleasure of simplifying the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. In today's episode, we're going to be talking all about how do we revive and how do we thrive. We're getting the account thriving. So we're talking about how to turn around a stagnant social media account. Now, these principles I go over today will be very much based in around Instagram and Facebook, although they'll work across any platform. But the examples I'm going to be giving will be focused on that. Now, this is a frustration that I hear from many of you each and every week, that your social media accounts just aren't growing. There doesn't seem to be anybody engaging with your content other than your mum and your friends. And so we're going to talk about how do we go about solving that exact problem. We'll talk about some diagnosis first. Why might that problem be happening? And then I'm going to take you through 9 steps. Now, we're going to do this as a two-parter because there's a lot for us to go through. And I don't want this just to be in one episode, okay? So I'm going to spread this over 2 podcast episodes. There'll be a lot of homework to come from week number 1. Okay. First thing we have to realize is that organic reach is plummeting across all social media. And this is just because there's more people on there. Each and every week, more people are still coming to Facebook, to Instagram, to TikTok, to Twitter, or X as it's known now. And because of this, we're seeing a decrease in reach and engagement. Some stats would suggest that, in the last 18 months, there's been a 33% decrease in engagement across Instagram, and we're seeing similar things happening across Facebook. Now, I want to check in because there's a story that's also goes around that we're telling ourselves, and I hear across the social media world, is that people's attention spans are getting less and less, and therefore, that's a reason why organic reach is decreasing. Now, I'm not sure if this is true or not. I've not seen any research to suggest that our attention span is going down. But what I think is absolutely happening there too is that our standards are raising as consumers. Now, if you go back just 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot available to us in terms of consumption of media other than our television. And so we had a set of standards. We get on social media now, and some of the content that's on there is brilliant. It's stunning. It's entertaining. It's educating there too. It's amusing. And so as our standards have gone up, it means the quality of the content that we want to consume has gone up also. So now we get, even the movies that are on Netflix nowadays used to be stuff that we'd only see in the cinema. Now, whilst they started off a bit kind of dingy to begin with, the quality of content. So what this means is that we need to get better. And great content is where we have an intersection of 2 things, where 2 parts overlap. And the first is the message. The message that we're sharing has to be really, really good. Now, a number of episodes ago, I talked about that, branding is not look at me, it's look at this idea. Good messaging is about, sharing something that'll make a difference to the people in our community. And I believe as chiropractors, we have some really fantastic messages that we can share. But we have to be not talking about chiropractic. We need to be talking about the transformation that chiropractic makes in people's lives. And so the first thing I want you to realize is that we just have to be better. And so there's an intersection between message and the messenger. So some of you are really great at putting together a message that's attractive, that's entertaining, that brings about curiosity, that's going to stimulate people to think differently. But you're not stepping forward as the best version of you. Now, I've said this a lot of times, and I'm going to say it again here now. There's an audience for everybody, okay? There's Justin Bieber fans and there's Metallica fans. There's nothing in common with those 2 people, but both of them have millions of people that follow them. And the best version of you will be enough. Who are you? The question I was asking community influencer members a couple of weeks ago is, who are you at your best? Now, some people at their best are passionate. Some people are entertaining. Some people are educating. Some people, they lead with passion. Others lead with empathy. But I'd encourage you to spend some time now and go, who am I at my best? And what do I need to bring through to my videos so I can communicate to my people, okay? So it may well be that the reason, and I'll go into this when we talk about diagnosis in a moment there too, that your content is not reaching people and your account is not growing, is that you're just not being good enough. Okay, now we can blame it on the other people, but I never find that that's helpful. We want to take responsibility for ourselves. So when we find that sweet spot between a message that really captures people's attention and a messenger where we're doing our best, that's when we're going to start to really see some changes happening there too. So typically, there's one of 3 causes for why a social media account isn't growing, and I want to go over those here. The first is inactivity or inconsistency. And this is by far the number one reason why most chiropractors accounts aren't growing, okay? So they're inconsistent with the way that they post. They post 3 times a week and they do that for a month and then they stop for a month and then they start again and then they stop. And so this inconsistency is a trust signal. Now, the social media platforms see this and they're not going to, unless you're Beyonce, just because you post, they're not going to share it to the world if you're doing it inconsistently. So we want to set up a posting plan where we can post consistently. And when I asked, how often should that be? I think 3 times a week. That's what we should be aiming for. However, if you're saying, listen, I can post high quality content twice a week and I can commit to doing that for the next 4 months, that's often the question I like to ask. What could you commit to for the next 4 months? And that's where it is. Now, if you tell me, look, I can commit to once a fortnight over the next 4 months, then get out of the social media game. It's not for you. There's another way that you can share your message. Perhaps it's spinal screenings or it's corporate talks or in-house workshops or letterbox drops. There's plenty of ways that we can get more people to know us, like us, and trust us. Social media is one of those. I think a good bare minimum is 3 times a week. But again, I was having a conversation with a community influencer member this morning that she was saying, look, I've been doing this consistently. What's next for me? Should I be creating more content? And we actually said, no, look, let's build at other marketing platforms. Let's look at building your email list. Let's look at having conversations through another platform. So 3 times a week is where we want to get to, okay? The next thing to think about is, have you been breaking guidelines? There are many conversations that we have on social media as chiropractors that risk being shadow banned or getting us in trouble with the platform. So over the last couple of years, there's been lots of conversations that have possibly happened in around COVID or even, thoughts on vaccinations. And these sorts of topics there definitely get throttled down when we're talking about these on social media. Now, there is a way. Facebook, if you've broken any guidelines, they will send you a message. Now, whether it be via messenger or email. Now, probably if you're anything like me, I get dozens of messages of these, no, not dozens, but I probably get 10 a week that are all spam. Now we have to check, and the way that I check if they're spam is I go and see who they're from. And whilst it looks like it's coming from Facebook and it's on a Facebook type of letterhead, when I look at the actual email address, the email address is a ridiculous one. It's coming from a Hotmail or an Outlook email address, and that tells me that's spam, and I just delete those. If it's something serious from Facebook, you will know that it is. You look at the email address and you'll probably, it'll be obvious that it is. On Instagram, it's not as obvious so, but there is a way that you can go in through the settings and find that. And if you go to the show notes for this over on the website, and I'll link this into the comments, I'll show you exactly how you go in and find out whether your account or some of the content that you has been shadow banned. And therefore, what we would need to go in there is either correct that content, or probably what I would suggest is just delete those particular posts. And then you'll look through. You want to make sure that we've got some green ticks, but that's hard for me to explain this. Many of you are listening to this just from an audio point of view. So head on over, click into the show notes, and there'll be a link there over to the website where I'll show you how you will find that out. Okay. So first reason why accounts aren't growing is because of the inactivity or inconsistency. The second is we've broken the guidelines. And the third is messaging. Okay, now I touched on this beforehand. You're not sharing a message that's capturing the attention of your community. In essence, how the algorithm works is that we share some content. The Facebook platforms or social media platforms will show it to a small group of people. If they engage with it, if they watch that video, if they scroll through the carousel, if they're sharing, if they're interacting with it, then they will show it to some more people, and then they'll show it to some more again. Now, our messaging is important. This can sometimes be tricky, that if all of a sudden you've got really good at targeting and you've decided that my message now is all about, chiropractic and little kids, pediatrics, and particularly you're talking about kids that might have learning difficulties or whatever it is. If your audience before wasn't about that, okay, maybe your audience prior to that, you were dealing with athletes, there's going to be a mismatch in the content that you're sharing. And so it's going to take some time for you to grow a new audience. Now, I'm not suggesting that you delete your account and start again, but understand it may well take at least 90 days of you posting really consistently and putting a good message out there for, your new audience to realize. And so messaging, breaking the guidelines, and inconsistency, these are the 3 number one reasons why we might have difficulty with our account growing, okay? The next thing we need to do is that we need to be aware of our numbers. Many of you think that your account isn't growing, but it's growing perfectly, but they just grow slowly, particularly in the early days, if you don't have many people following you. So there's a couple of things that we need to know. So we need to know engagement. So engagement says how many people are interacting with my content. They are liking it, sharing it, watching a video, turning the sound up. Typically, engagement, what we want to see is somewhere between 1 and 5%. Okay. So now the way that we would measure engagement, this rate is calculated by dividing the total numbers of engagement. So people liking it, commenting, and sharing it by the total number of reach or impressions. Okay. So if there are 5 people that interact with it and it's been shown to 100 people, then that's great. That's all you can expect. All right. Unless, again, you're Beyonce. That's probably what we would expect of most businesses. The next thing to look is reach. Now, the typical reach in terms of how many people is my content going to be shown for is somewhere between 5 and 10% of your followers. So if you've got 100 people that are following you, you can expect that what we would see is somewhere between 5 and 10 of those people would see your content. Not many, okay? This is a numbers game that we have to be keeping on working through. And so you need to understand these numbers and you need to be looking at them regularly so that you've got something to compare it against. We should be looking at our followers, measuring this. So on a monthly basis, we want to be measuring some stats: engagement, reach, followers. What is the growth happening? And sometimes in the early days, the growth of our followers is a little faster. And you want to look at a relationship between content created and these other factors there too, because typically the more content we create, the more engagement there is, the more followers, more reach. And so that's why I suggest that 3 times a week as a minimum. So if you feel like your account isn't growing, and you check it against your engagement and your reach, it may well be that it's growing perfectly, but it's just a slow process. So that's something that we need to be aware of. The next thing to think about is setting an appropriate time frame for this strategy to work. I'm going to walk you through 9 steps. We'll do a few of them in this episode, and we'll dive into the following. In the next episode, we'll go into a lot more detail. This is a 90-day plan minimum, okay? Do not expect this to work next week. Don't expect it to even work next month. So 90 days minimum. It takes some time to turn around a stagnant or a dying account because you've got to build trust with the algorithm and trust with your people, all right? So 9 steps. That's what we're going to work our way through, and we'll do a few of them here in this episode. And then next week, we'll come back and we'll finish that all off. The very first thing that we need to do is we need to do a complete makeover of your profile. And we want to make sure that your page is optimized, okay? So profile across Facebook and Instagram. And I'll take you through the keys of both of these. So for your Instagram account, what we want to do is we want to update your bio. So regardless of what it was, we're going to put a new one in there. So we're going to make sure that you're, and I'm going to share a bio framework with you in a moment. So we make sure that it's letting people know what they're going to get, who the account is for, and why they should stay. We want to update your profile photo. So again, the rules for profile photo is this, is if you have a team of multiple doctors, you can use your logo, okay? But if you're a single chiropractic practice, we want a photograph of you. And it's better off to be, we don't want a photograph that's too stuffy or formal. In this way here, a photograph just kind of taken on your iPhone that is mostly of your face, okay? So certainly it's from the chest upwards so that we can see you. We want to make sure that we're using all of the resources that are available for us on our Instagram. So particularly we want to add highlights. So down underneath where our profile is there too is a series of highlights. Now these highlights here, these summarize the different topics that you create. These summarize, you might have a section there about, who we care for. Again, if you're allowed to share your results, it could be there. It could pick some topics like colic or asthma, headaches, sciatica. So this is literally like a menu that could exist on a website. You want to make sure that you are pinning posts. We want to take advantage of this feature because it allows us to pin the very best content that we've had in the entire time that we've had our account open so that we can share this. Now, we can pin up to 3 posts. Typically, I would like these posts to be a combination of these 3 things. Now, one of these posts is going to be a post that introduces you and the practice and tells a little bit about what you do and who you help. One of these posts should be showcasing your best content. So maybe you've got a reel that's had tens of thousands, maybe even millions of views. We'd want to put that in there because we can really get social proof from that. So post one of your best performing content, okay, pieces. And the third one should be a post that really encourages engagement. So your most engaged post. So is there a post there that people are commenting on, sharing, interacting that does a really good job with that, okay? So those 3 posts that we'd want to pin at the top is a post that introduces yourself, a post that showcases your best content, and a post that encourages engagement, okay? These are the things that we should be looking on. Facebook, okay, similar, few differences here. Update your profile and your cover photo, okay? So we get this cover photo up the top there, and you can go into Canva and you can make some brilliant Don't be using stock images. The appropriate thing for you to be having there might be a photograph of you working with your patients or a collage of you working with your patients. Okay, so add photographs that really reflect the niche and relate to your audience. So if you're a pediatric practice, it should reflect that. If you're a sports practice, it should reflect that. If you're heavily into posture correction, it should do that, okay? Make sure that you review and optimize your about section. Okay, so with an accurate, up-to-date information, we want to know, make sure that we've got in the hours that we're open, the phone number, practice address, all of those details. It still amazes me how many of you are not just filling out all of the details. Start to take advantage of the Facebook story feature. We can access this via the desktop and start to add some stories. This is a thing that can really help. So what we're doing here is a refresh through all of the basics, okay? So about information, make sure everything's in there, new cover images, new profile images, and make sure that we've got that all set up. That's the first thing. Now remember, when we're putting in the information about our bio and about us, the thing to remember is that when you confuse, you lose, okay? So we want our language to be really simple. We want to be telling our audience who we are, what is the benefit. Now, I see lots of mistakes with this one. I think this one has been changed. I love the heck out of this guy. We've had some wonderful discussions about this, but his Instagram bio was, a great life needs a strong foundation. Your nervous system is the foundation for life. Build a new life with foundation. Now, I kind of know where he's going with regards to that too, but if you were a layperson and you read that, you're none the wiser. Like, what am I going to get by following this account? Now, if we compare that to, gentle chiropractic to help families in the Lara area feel and function better. Follow for tips and advice to help you live your best life. 3,000 plus patients helped. Now, I'm not saying that this, because again, if I came across that account there, it's probably not going to interest me, all right? But for families that might be seeking a family-based chiropractor, this speaks their language. Let me read that to you again, and this is Lauren's, okay? Gentle chiropractic to help families in the Lara area feel and function better. This is what we do, okay? And why do we follow? Follow for tips and advice to help you live your best life. 3,000 plus patients help. Some social proof at the end, okay? So that's one option through there too. Tony Ebel, who does a great job with his social media. If you're not following him, you should have a look at PWC Chiropractic. And that's McHenry County's leading pediatric, prenatal, and family specialist. A neurofocus office dedicated to helping kids of all abilities thrive. All right? So it's really clear. This is what this chiropractic practice is about. And you want to put together your own version of a statement like that. And let me share with you the bio formula that I teach so that you can implement, okay? So it's helping which audience to get what result, follow for the benefit. So who do you help? And again, when you're talking about this helping, one of the ways to think about this, you could either put in your location, okay? So it could be, helping Port Melbourne, or you could put in the demographic. So it could be helping Port Melbourne or helping busy mums, or you could put those together, helping busy Port Melbourne mums. So we want to call out our audience. That's the first part of what our bio formula does. The next part is, what do we help them do? So helping busy mums raise happy drug-free families, helping pregnant women deliver naturally, helping kids of all abilities thrive, helping athletes, perform at their best, helping athletes recover faster, helping office workers work without pain. So this is what we're doing in that first section of the bio, okay? And then we want to tell them, what are they going to get if they follow? Follow for tips and advice to live your best life. Follow for videos, articles, and community support. So again, let's put those together. It could be helping pregnant women deliver naturally, follow for videos, articles, and community support, or helping busy mums raise happy, drug-free families, follow for tips and advice to live your best life, okay? And if we've got some space left there too, we could put in some bonuses, which might be any awards or experience as well. So again, Lauren in there put, 3,000 plus patients helped. Again, I used to have on mine, Chiro of the Year ×2. So helping pregnant women deliver naturally, follow for videos, articles, and community support, voted Chiropractor of the Year twice. Helping busy mums raise happy drug-free families, follow for tips and advice to live your best life, 8,000 plus patients helped. So these are examples of Instagram bios that capture people's attention. They're magnetic to the right people. So that's what we'd want to kind of run that sort of formula across either Instagram or Facebook, across any of your platforms. The next thing that we want to do when we're working on it, so that's all number one, okay? Number one is all about optimizing your profile and giving it a refresh and a makeover. number 2 of these 9 steps is we want to boost our best performing content. Okay, we're going to pay to play. We can speed up this whole social media game by putting some money behind it. Again, you know, the social media accounts, yes, can you grow them organically and naturally without this? But it takes a lot of effort. And remember, we're not social media influencers. We're wanting to post 3 times a week. We're wanting to invest, at maximum 60 to 90 minutes a week into this. So let's take advantage of putting some money in behind this. So we want to go through and have a look. What have been our best performing posts over the last 12 or 18 months? Was there a reel that kind of went viral? Was there, a carousel that got a lot of engagement? Now you can look back through the stats, the platforms, whether it be the Meta Business Suite or whether it be inside the Instagram app, and you can find out which was my highest reach, where was the most engagement, what was my best performing posts, and we'd want to boost these, okay? Now, when we're boosting these, we want to be spending somewhere between kind of a minimum of $2 and up to $5 a day. And we want to put this content in front of our audience. Now, there's several ways that we can go about this, but simply you're going to be prompted to choose an audience. The simplest and still probably the most effective is just choose a radius in around your practice. So if you're a city, an inner city sort of practice there too, most of your practice members probably come within a 3-mile radius. Now, yes, there will be plenty of people that come further than that, but most of them, 80% of your people are probably within that 3-mile, which is kind of, 5 to 6 kilometers. Now, if you're a country practice in a more rural area, you're going to extend that open. So Lauren's practice, we put right out to sort of, 10 to 15 miles, right? Closer to 20 to 25 kilometers because she's more of a rural area. So we're going to pay to play with this. A budget between sort of $2 and $5, and we're just going to pick different posts to rotate those through. So we're making sure our best content is getting in front of people. Now, strategy number 3, if we want to revive a dead or stagnant account, is that we need to make sure that we're using all post types. Now, Adam Mosseri, the boss of Instagram, came out recently saying that this is what we want you doing. We want you using all of the different post types. And typically what we do as small businesses, as chiropractors, where social media is not our game, is that we stick to one type. Maybe it's just Reels. We've heard that Reels are great. And Reels are fantastic. They're still the best way for us to get the most reach, which is to get in front of new people. But we want to make sure that we're using many different things. And so on Instagram, we have a choice of, 7 different post types that we could be using. So image posts, this is just a photograph. This might be a photograph of you adjusting a patient. One of my community influencer clients, Fiona, does lots of lovely, just her standing there with a selfie with a patient. And again, here in Australia, we can't do a testimonial, so she might just share something, a pleasure to conserve, a pleasure to continue to serve our local community. Little things like that you can just share. So social proof from it. It might be an image post of what you did on the weekend. It might be an image post of you doing a posture analysis. It might be an image post if you're looking at an x-ray. So that's image posts. Carousels. So carousels are really just a group of image posts laid on top of another so we can slide to go through them. Instagram really loves these, and at the moment they're helping to push those out. They get really great engagement. People like to kind of scroll through them and we can tell a story. And what I'm often telling community influencer members to do is that when they create a video, most videos can be really easily repurposed as a carousel. So if I shot a video that happened to be, the number one mistake that I see patients doing with their office setup, and then I would go through and talk about what it was in the video, and then there's a call to action, I could share that same thing in a carousel, okay? So Reels, these are basically short videos, less than 90 seconds. We want to be making lots of those, but we also want to be making some longer videos, and these are videos longer than 3 minutes. So probably 80% of your videos should be less than 90 seconds, but you want to make some longer ones because as people are going through that buyer journey, as they're building trust with you, they'll engage with longer content. Occasionally, you want to make some live videos. Live videos are fantastic. They're a great way of engagement and interaction. You want to make sure that you're using Instagram stories. There are a number of people that the only way they use Instagram is they just look at the stories, okay? They don't go into the main feed. Stories is how they engage through it. And then finally, we want to be putting together story highlights. I talked about that beforehand. These are, underneath our bio there, we can start to build together story highlights of our best performing content. So they're the 7 different post types on Instagram that we want to make sure we're using all of them. Now, mostly what you're going to be doing is creating reels, and carousels would be what I would suggest, but add in some image posts, go live every now and then. Also make sure you're using stories. On Facebook, we have a simple text post. So text post has no image along with it. It's just simply text. You might ask a question. You might give an update of what's going on. And text posts get amazing reach, okay? And amazing engagement, particularly if you ask a really engaging question, a stimulating question. So these are fast to do, really easy, and it might be just something like, what are the biggest challenges that you have working at a desk all day? Or it might be, what difficulties have you had with maintaining good posture? Questions like that stimulate a response. A photo post, much the same as before. A link post, what we can do in Facebook is we can have a post that then links somewhere else that maybe takes them over to our website to engage in more content. Now, a word of caution about link posts. We want to use these sparingly because Instagram and or Facebook doesn't like sending people off their platform to anywhere else because it costs them money. They want to keep people on there. Facebook has stories. We want to be using those. Facebook actually likes videos that are a little bit longer. Okay, so we want to have some videos that are longer than 3 minutes on the Instagram, shorter videos. Facebook, slightly longer videos. Again, live videos, pin post, and again, Facebook Reels. So this is not available on the desktop at the time I'm recording this, but you can have Facebook Reels on the platform. So again, what I want you to understand from that in terms of strategy number 3 is that we're using all post types, okay? That's the key. So let me summarize what we've gone through today, and I'm going to wind this up for week number 1, and then we'll come back next week and we'll talk all about this, okay? We're going through 9 steps to help you revive a dead or stagnant social media account. A couple of things we have to realize. There are 3 causes that mostly end up with a dead or stagnant social media account. One is inactivity or inconsistent posting. The second is some of our content has been shadow banned. Underneath this will be a link for you to check on Instagram if your content has been shadow banned, and you'll get notifications from Facebook if that's the account. And if that's the case. And the third reason is your messaging is just off. Remember, we want to find this sweet spot, which is a great match between message and messenger. Are you being your best that you can possibly be? And are you talking to the right people? We need to, once we've kind of diagnosed the cause there, we need to give ourselves some time. Okay. Understand that this is not going to turn around overnight. We need to allow at least 90 days for us to implement this strategy and to see if it's working. And we need to know our numbers. Okay, remember our engagement there is somewhere between 1 and 5%. Our reach is somewhere between 5 and 10%. We want to be creating a minimum of 3 posts a week. Now, once we've laid down the foundations for this, 9 steps we're going to go through. And today we've gone through the first 3 of those. And the first is we want to do a complete makeover of your profile. New images, so new photograph, okay, new cover images if you're on Facebook. And we're going to write out a new bio. And I shared with you the bio formula, okay? Who do we help? Okay. What result do we help them to get? Why should they follow? And can we add in some social proof in there? We want to be boosting our best performing posts. Our budget for this is going to be somewhere between $2 and $10, $2 and $5 a day. And we find our best performing posts by going into the stats, and we can do that through the Instagram platform or the Facebook Meta Business Suite. And then the final tip we talked about today is to utilize all post types. Okay. Don't just be stuck on one. We're going to primarily be making videos and reels. They're 2, but we want to make sure that every now and then we're dipping into the others also. So in next week's episode, we're going to come back and we'll work our way through the other 6 of those. I'm going to give you a bit of a hint about what they are now. We'll talk about how we drive our own traffic. I'll share with you the power of collaboration, the importance of optimizing your captions, how we get to know our audience better, and the questions that we should be asking to find out. We'll talk about posting times, because there are times that your audience is on there and we want to be making the most of that. And then finally, I'll finish up with how do we make sure that the best version of us is shining through. All right, folks, that's part 1 of how do we revive a dead or stagnant account. Thanks as always for what you do. Keep saving lives, folks. See you back here next week. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.